Hey there, welcome to another Wellness Wednesday. Dr. Patello here with the Diabetes Free Life community. So I want to start off, I wanted to ask you something. Have you ever had your feet ever feel like they're just burning at the end of the day? Maybe you notice some tingling, or worse, your toes are starting to actually feel numb. That's not just annoying, it's actually a signal. It's your body letting you know that there's actually a problem there. And today what I want to do is I want to unpack one of the most overlooked, frustrating complications that just happens with type 2 diabetes, and that's neuropathy. And if you think that this doesn't apply to you, I want to hit you with something, and I want you to hit you with some statistics because we like doing that here every single week. But over half of all type 2 diabetics are actually going to experience some form of neuropathy in their lifetime. But here's the good news. Most people have never been told what actually causes it or how to actually go about reversing it, and we're about to change that. If you're new to the group, I want to say a big welcome to you. Make sure you check out last week's session where I introduced something called the root and fruit model. And it's a powerful way to actually visualize why your body is stuck in the state of chronic inflammation and how we actually help patients be able to move in the opposite direction. I know a lot of you have printed out that graphic, you stuck it on your fridge, your mirror, or you just have it in front of you somewhere where it acts as a daily reminder of what they're healing. Because once you understand that map, and no one really can stop you. Today we zoom in on one of the most painful branches when it comes to the fruit, and that fruit is neuropathy. So let's talk about what neuropathy really is. It's actually nerve damage. Usually it's starting at the tips of like maybe your fingers, your toes, and they work all the way up. It's often bilateral. What that means is it actually shows up on both sides of your body. Unlike like when you have an injury that usually affects one side or one limb. This comes in stages. First comes the heat. Typically, most people experience it as heat. Your feet feel hot, especially at night. Then the zingers, then the tingling starts to come in. Then comes the burning, the aching. Some people describe it like they kind of walk on hot coals. And for many, that gives you, it kind of gives way to feeling like just total numbness there. You stop feeling your feet entirely. Some even lose their feeling in their hands first. It's different really for everyone. But the one thing that's the same is once it starts, it just unfortunately it just rarely stops. It really stops on its own. Now let's talk about why that's the case. And maybe for many of you, this is going to surprise many of you. Some of the patients that I work with, they have an A1C of like a 6.2. And some people would say, okay, that's pre-diabetes. By the way, there's no such thing as pre-diabetes. Either you have diabetes or you don't have diabetes. But some people have a blood sugar around at 6.2 of like 110, and yet they still have neuropathy. Others are sitting at like an A1C of like a 7.8 or even higher, and somehow they don't have neuropathy. So what gives? Well, what it really comes down to is that everyone has a genetic tolerance for sugar-related damage, and everyone is different. But here's the common denominator. Here's the common thing with everyone. It's something called oxidative stress, and we talk about this a lot in our group. When we talk about blood sugars and blood sugars just lingering in your bloodstream because of things like insulin resistance, because of endocrine disruption, your body can't use this fast enough. It just can't use the glucose fast enough. And what winds up happening is it creates something called glycolylated end products, right? And these glycolylated end products, these GEPs, that's what they're known as. What these GEPs, they're kind of like the little like small microscopic razor blades. And what do these little razor blades do? And they literally look just like that under a microscope. When we look at blood sugars, when they harden, that's this process of glycolation that we're talking about here. When we look at them under a microscope, they look like these little razor blades, these little knives. And what they actually do is they start shredding your arteries. They start shredding your veins and your nerves, and they do it from inside out. And this is the hidden fire that unfortunately most doctors don't talk to you about. The so-called conventional medicine that's out there, has a name for this type of problem, and it's neuropathy, but they don't have a really solution for it. Yeah, I mean, they're going to give you, what do they usually do? They're going to give you the same thing like they always do. They'll give you some kind of prescription. Maybe it's gabapentin or something like Lyrica. What do those prescriptions do? They just really dull the pain. But these meds, they don't reverse the nerve damage. They just turn down, how should I put it? They kind of turn down the volume of your brain's pain signal. It's like painting over mold. You're still breathing in the same toxics underneath. Maybe you don't see it as much. In some cases, patients are given things like narcotics. because the pain is so unrelenting, it's so strong, and those nerves are just, that's just intense, and it can't be ignored. So they take some really, really strong medication. But again, that doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't solve the root cause of the problem. And that's why we have to look at things differently. We actually have to do things differently. So I want to break this down with you here. First, the first step is this. You got to uncover the root cause. Why is it there in the first place? That root and fruit model, it shows you what's happening underneath the surface, what's actually driving the inflammation that actually is causing the nerve damage in the first place. If you don't solve that, you're just playing, and I talk a lot about this, you just play that whack-a-mole game. And that whack-a-mole game is the symptoms come up, you whack it down with a prescription. Step number two, you got to actually lower your oxidative stress. Think of oxidative stress sort of like kind of like smoke from a fire. You can't build a fire in your living room and expect to stay healthy, not unless you have a chimney. Well, your cells, and we're made up of trillions and trillions of cells, your cells, they don't have chimneys. So what do your cells use? Your cells actually use antioxidants, things like alpha-lipoic acid, glutathione, resveratrol. These help put out the smoke before it burns out the cells, burns out your house, so to speak. Next step number three, we gotta investigate something called GABA function. Gabapentin mimics this thing called GABA, and it's your body's natural, how should I put it? It's kind of like your body's natural calm down chemical. But if your body isn't making enough of it, or for some reason it's just not responding to the amount that it's making, no drug is going to fully work. So what do? We got to run tests. We got to run tests to actually check. We got to check GABA enzyme activity, autoimmune issues that might be actually targeting your body's production of GABA, the pathways that are actually responsible to make GABA. Brain resistance actually causes GABA signals to be interfered. When GABA isn't working, your nervous system just stays in kind of like a fire alarm mode. It's always on. It's just always constantly on. Even when the fire's out, it's just that alarm is just ringing. It's an alarm that's ringing. Let's talk about step number 4, B12 and metformin. Many of you may know this, maybe some of you don't, but I definitely want to make sure you're all aware of this. But metformin, in the medical literature, has been shown to deplete vitamin B12. Well, if your body's depleted of vitamin B12, let's say it's from metformin, you can actually have neuropathy. So now you've got two root causes, right? You've got sugar damage and you've got nutrient depletion. Both of those are working against you, and it leads to neuropathy. So here's the big takeaway that I want you to take from this. Neuropathy isn't just about pain. It's about your body crying out for help. It's trying to tell you something. It doesn't have to be a life sentence, though. And so many people are dealing with neuropathies, and they've been dealing it for years. Well, unfortunately, the first stage of amputation always starts off with neuropathies. But with the right kind of strategy, based on your labs, based on what your root causes are, based on your own individual biology. Listen, we've seen it happen in our clinic. We've helped people be able to move away from the numbness, back to the tingling, through the pain, and eventually towards having normal function again, where they actually feel their feet. They're actually able to walk. They don't feel like their balance is off and they're going to topple over. That's what we do in our clinic every single day. And on Monday, April 28th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I want to let you know, I want to remind you, have you registered? Have you marked your calendars? Are you ready for our Masterclass? Because again, on Monday, April 28th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, I am going to be hosting our free Masterclass to show you exactly how we do this. I want to show you the lab tests that your doctors aren't running, the patterns that they just somehow just always miss. I want to show you the personalized plans that actually help you reverse type 2 diabetes and its complications that happen as a result of type 2 diabetes. I want you to see it from the root up. This is your chance to take control. So what I want you to do is I want you to drop a fire emoji. I want you to drop a clap emoji here in the comment section, right? If today's session about neuropathy really hit home for you, I want you to let me know about it. I look at these comments. I know my team definitely looks at these comments. Let me know if you're going to be showing up for Monday. I know we're going to be here. I want you to tag someone. Someone you care about, maybe because they're experiencing the neuropathy and they actually need to hear this as well, because their neuropathy is just stealing, maybe they're stealing their comfort. Maybe it steals their freedom. I'll see you guys on Monday. Until then, I want to wish you all a blessed evening and keep moving forward. I'll see you soon.